3, 2, 1, go!
Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, it is KingNido here and we are in New Morval City where the darkness is trying to overcome the mindfulness as we have the 7th place New Morval Devils hosting the 6th place Pheromones, and they're starting out with Espeon and Alakazam are the mines, whereas it's Hydreigon and Mandibuzz starting out for Dark type Devils. Alakazam immediately with a Hurricane onto Mandibuzz. It is a fantastic hit and it leaves Mandibuzz confused as Mandibuzz will need to shake that off. Espeon follows it up with a grudge, so it will try to bear a grudge against one of its opponents. But Hydreigon now going for its first move and it goes for a Power Whip there on Alakazam and it is a massive hit, but Alakazam does hold on. Mandibuzz, if it shakes it off, it does shake off the confusion, goes for the Heavy Slam, but goes for Alakazam, it will finish it off, but instead goes for Espeon here, so Alakazam does survive another turn and goes for the Stop Power, which will not affect Hydreigon, and the Endeavor does not affect Mandibuzz from Espeon, so Hydreigon goes for the Stab boosted Outrage and finishes off Espeon, who was stronger than Alakazam at that point in the matchup. A huge hit, and Mandibuzz is able to shake off its confusion and goes for the Infestation on Alakazam, which is a super effective hit. Gets the elimination. That is a huge play. 2 Pokemon down in 1 turn, and we are just over a minute into this matchup as Bronzong and Metagross come out now for the Pheromones, and they have that Steel typing to back up their Psychic typing as that Outrage continues hitting Metagross from Hydreigon. Not very effective, but is a good hit there. Mandibuzz again able to shake off that confusion and goes for the Smokescreen, but Metagross with that clear body will not have its stats lowered as Metagross does bury its way underground. This is not going to hit either Mandibuzz or Hydreigon as Mandibuzz is flying and Hydreigon can levitate, but that Avalanche will connect on Hydreigon from Bronzong. Super effective as Hydreigon goes for that Outrage again, this time hitting Bronzong there. Still not very effective, but a good hit as Hydreigon does become confused due to fatigue, so both Dark-type Pokemon are confused, and a Razor Shell now from Mandibuzz will miss Metagross, and that Dig won't affect Mandibuzz. Bronzong now is going to set up a Wonder Room here. So the defense and special defense stats will be reversed. Hydreigon does shake off its confusion as well and goes for the Smart Strike onto Bronzong. It won't be very effective on the Steel type Pokemon there as Mandibuzz finally snaps out of its own confusion and goes for the double kick here on Metagross. Will do more damage due to the Steel typing as that Psychic typing would have resisted it, but Metagross now with a Grass Pledge onto its fellow Pseudo Legendary. Not very effective there on Hydreigon as Bronzong sets up for some coaching, trying to help out Metagross here, so it is going to give its teammate a nice attack stat boost there as well as its defense. And Hydreigon snaps out of its own confusion, going with the Psychic Fangs here onto Bronzong, doing very minimal damage, does that in a very effective attack as Mandibuzz starts to create an uproar here and does hit Metagross with that move. Is not very effective though, as Metagross with the Fire Blast here onto Mandibuzz. A very good hit there on the flying Pokemon, and Bronzong follows it up with a super effective Nuzzle. Doesn't do as much damage as Metagross just did, but it will leave Mandibuzz paralyzed here as Mandibuzz with that weak armor ability will have its defense stat lowered, but will get the speed boost there. This is the first time it's actually had that ability come into play in this matchup as Hydreigon with their confusion now onto Metagross. Metagross taking the smallest amount of damage from that, practically shaking it off, but Mandibuzz follows it up with another uproar onto Metagross, trying to chip away there as Metagross going for the Shadow Sneak onto Mandibuzz. Doesn't get the elimination. Mandibuzz holds on. If it takes another hit though, surely it will be eliminated. Bronzong could finish Mandibuzz off here, which it desperately needs as there's only 4 Pokemon remaining for the Pheromones, and here comes the Double Edge to take Mandibuzz out of this matchup. Pheromones getting their first elimination of the Dark types. There was a slither of recoil damage there done to Bronzong, as well as that Trop Kick from Hydreigon, not very effective on Metagross, and we have Pangoro who has come out onto the field as Metagross responds with a not very effective attack of its own onto Hydreigon, but Pangoro with the Aurora Beam onto Bronzong is not going to do much damage again, not very effective. Those Steel types resist so many moves, and now a Bolt Beak hits Hydreigon from Bronzong as that Wonder Room does wear off, and a Toxic doesn't affect Bronzong due to that Steel typing. And an Expanding Force won't hit Hydreigon, but Pangoro with the Baton Pass. So Pangoro goes back to the bench as both sides with their immunities coming into play, and Weavile now comes out onto the field as Bronzong goes for the Bulldoze, which won't affect Hydreigon, but hits Metagross as well as hitting Weavile. So Bronzong doing damage to its own teammate here. And a fissure is avoided by Metagross from Hydreigon as Weavile sets up toxic spikes on the field. So only Pokemon now coming out for their pheromones who lands in them will be poisoned instantly. As the payday from Metagross to Hydreigon. Hydreigon holds on just and is then sweet kissed by a Bronzong, which will leave Hydreigon confused for the second time in this matchup. Hydreigon needs to shake it off or it will eliminate itself, and it is able to. It goes for the Shell Smash, so it's going to lower both its physical and special defensive stats, but will boost every other stat that it has. So it gets that attack, special attack, and speed boost, a great deal there, as a Fire Spin is avoided by Bronzong from Weavile. But Metagross with the Fire Lash finally eliminates Hydreigon from this matchup, taking down its fellow pseudo-legendary who spent over 5 minutes in this matchup. And now Bronzong's going to set up for a Meteor Beam, so it will boost its special attack on this turn. It's going to look to connect with that move in the next turn, which would do massive damage, you have to think, to Weavile. As Pangoro comes back onto the field, and Weavile with the Crunch is going to finish Metagross off with that super effective move. So both pseudo-legendaries have been taken out of this matchup, and Pangoro is going to go back to the bench again. It teleports, disappearing off this field, and out in its place comes Incineroar, the Fire Dark type, with that Intimidate ability, so it is going to lower the attack stat of Bronzong. Now Bronzong going for that Meteor Beam, and huge damage with that attack, super effective on Weavile, eliminates it from this matchup, levels the playing field. Pangoro comes back on as Slowbro comes out for the pheromones and lands in those toxic spikes, so Slowbro will be poisoned. It will take continuous damage from that as Incineroar with the lock on focuses in on Slowbro here. But it is a 3 versus 3 battle now between the 7th place and 6th place sides. That Reflect setup by Pangoro will make its side stronger against physical type moves, as Bronzong with that not very effective attack onto Incineroar, and a Metal Sounds being played by Slowbro onto Pangoro is going to greatly lower its special defense stats as Slowbro starts to take damage from those toxic spikes. Now Incineroar going with the Reflect type, so it's going to change its type into the same as Slowbro, so it becomes a Water Psychic type. This could have big implications in the matchup. Pangoro with the Synthesis that already has full health, and Pangoro avoids the Inferno from Bronzong, but is unable to avoid the Avalanche from Slowbro here. And again, that poisoning taking effect onto Slowbro, chipping away at it bit by bit. And Incineroar now with the Quiver Dance on the field. It is going to boost its special attack and its special defense with that, as well as its speed. So some huge boosts here. See if it can capitalize. But a Weather Ball now coming from Pangoro onto Bronzong. This won't be very effective. Does tiny damage here. Again, that Steel typing helping with the resistances. But a Rock Tomb in response. Also not very effective on Pangoro, but does lower its speed stats if Bronzong can be quicker. Now Slowbro with the Assurance will be super effective on the now Psychic type Incineroar. Again, it is a Psychic Water type now after using that Reflect type earlier in the matchup, but Incineroar now with the Amnesia is going to boost its defense stats here. So Incineroar, its special defense, sorry, but it does keep boosting its stats. It needs to capitalize on them, but a Razor Shell from Bronzong not very effective now that Incineroar is a Water type. Noble Roar being performed by Pangoro going for Bronzong here. Bronzong does have its attack and special attack stats lowered. Now Slowbro with a Sparkling Arrow. This is actually going to hit everybody on the field, including its teammate Bronzong. But Pangoro taking huge damage holds on. Unfortunately, Bronzong taken out by its own teammate. That move not very effective on Incineroar thanks to that type change in it as Slowbro continues to take damage. But Slowbro has taken out its own teammate. Now Rapidash comes onto the field, and with that Pastel Veil ability, will cure Slowbro of that poisoning and will not suffer from the toxic spikes, as Pangoro does have its special attack stat raised by Rapidash, but is left confused. But Incineroar now with the Pollen Puff onto Slowbro. Super effective hit. Slowbro is eliminated, and all of a sudden Rapidash has 3 Dark type Pokemon to contend with. Not that Incineroar is Dark type anymore, but still Pangoro now setting up for the Rising Voltage onto Rapidash, taking some good damage there as the Reflect wears off on the side of the Devils, and Rapidash with the Revenge onto Pangoro finishes it off. That's the first elimination that Rapidash needs, and it gets it with that super effective move. It now has 2 Pokemon to contend with as the Electrify does fail from Incineroar, and we have Umbreon now coming out onto the field. The Hydro Pump fails from Rapidash, but the Dazzling Gleam from Incineroar will connect on Rapidash, and it's going to be followed up by a Drill Peck from Umbreon to give the Dark types the victory here in New Marvel City. This is massive for the Devils. This should push them up into the Elite Four. The Pheromones should be struggling to even stay in the top 8, but they do, so they're going to move down to 7th place. New Marvel Devils move their way up to 3rd, and next round they're actually going to be facing the Opelucid Draconid, so another huge side to contend with for the Dark types. The Pheromones in their next matchup will be facing the Pewter Stones, who have been losing their way in the past few rounds, but our next matchup will be 1 versus 2, the Olivine versus the Coney Spring. It won't get bigger than that. First versus second. I cannot wait for that matchup, but until then, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below who you thought was the best on field, and if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, you are awesome, and I'll see you when you see me.